is Wednesday. I got my pension today, but I have to wait for tomorrow to pay my rent apartments and my bills and $1,000 to my debts. It's Wednesday 31. Tomorrow is the 1st June. So, but let's read something more about the Roman Empire. I make some video about it in my language Danish. I have some video called History, but that's in Danish. I could do it in English later. But it's a little bit more than 12 noon. So I have to wait for tomorrow, Thursday, to pay my bills. Then I have like $200 left for June. So that's like nothing left, but I will keep this money. I will keep the money in my bank. Then I will use my credit cards. I will use my credit card, but I will pay my payment to my credit card tomorrow, Thursday. So I have to wait to Saturday. I have $200 more on my credit cards. But I still have a little money left from this month on my credit cards. I've just been out shopping a little bit, cola and chips. So let's read this.
Timeline of Roman history. This is a timeline of Roman history, comprising important legal and territorial changes and political events in the Roman Kingdom and Republic and the Roman and Byzantine empires. To read about the background of these events, see Ancient Rome and History of the Byzantine Empire. Following tradition. This timeline marks the deposition of Romulus Augustulus and the fall of Constantinople as the end of Rome in the west and east, respectively. See 3rd Rome for a discussion of claimants to the succession of Rome. Millennia, 1st BC times 1 St 2 ND centuries. 7th BC times 6 th BC times 5 th BC times 4 th BC times 3 Rhode BC times 2 ND BC times 1 st BC times 1 st times 2 ND times 3 Rhode times 4 th times 5 th times 6 th times 7 th times 8 th times 9 th times 10 th times 11 th times 12 th times 13 th times 14 th times 15 th 8 th and 7th centuries BC. Year date event 753 BC 21 April Rome was founded. According to Roman legend, Romulus was the founder and first king of Rome, establishing the Roman kingdom. 752 BC Romulus, first king of Rome, celebrates the first Roman triumph after his victory over the Seninenses, following the rape of the Sabine women. He celebrates a further triumph later in the year over the Antemnates. 1. Rome's first colonies were established. 1. 715 BC Numa Pompilius became the second king of Rome. 673 BC Tullus Hostilius became the third king of Rome. 667 BC Byzantium was founded by Megarian colonists. 642 BC Tullus Hostilius died. The Curiate Assembly, one of the legislative assemblies of the Roman kingdom, elected Ancus Marcius king of Rome. 617 BC Ancus Marcius died. 616 BC the Curiate Assembly elected Lucius Tarquinius Priscus king of Rome. 6th century BC. Year date event 575 BC the Senate accepted the regent Servius Tullius as king of Rome. 535 BC Servius Tullius was murdered by his daughter Tullia Minor and her husband Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, who declared himself king of Rome on the steps of the Curia Hostilia. 509 BC. The patrician Luretia was raped by Lucius Tarquinius Superbus' son Sextus Tarquinius. Overthrow of the Roman monarchy. Following Luretia's suicide, Lucius Junius Brutus called the Curiate Assembly, one of the legislative assemblies of the Roman kingdom. The latter agreed to the overthrow and expulsion of Lucius Tarquinius Superbus and to a provisional constitution under which two consuls acted as a joint executive and a Curiate Assembly held legislative power, and swore never again to let a king rule Rome. It further elected Lucius Junius Brutus and Lucius Tarquinius Collatinus, Luretia's husband, as consuls. Battle of Silva Arsia. Tarquinian and Veientine forces loyal to Lucius Tarquinius Superbus were defeated in the Silva Arsia by a Roman army. Lucius Junius Brutus was killed. Publius Valerius Publicola, returning to Rome with the spoils of war, was awarded the first Roman triumph on March 1. The consul Publius Valerius Publicola promulgated a number of liberal reforms, including opening the office of consul to all Roman citizens and placing the treasury under the administration of appointed quaestors. 13 September. The temple of Jupiter Optimus Maximus was ceremonially dedicated to the Capitoline Triad. 508 BC. Roman Etruscan Wars. A Clusian army failed to conquer Rome. 504 BC. Roman Sabine Wars. Roman victory over the Sabines in the Battle of 504 BC by Consul Publicus. 501 BC. In the face of a potential Sabine invasion, the Senate passed a Senatus Consultum authorizing the consuls to appoint a dictator, a magistrate who held absolute power during a national emergency. The dictator would in turn appoint the Magister Equitum, the commander of the cavalry. The consuls Titus Larsius and Postumus Cominius Aurencus elected the former as dictator. 5th century BC. Year date event 496 BC. Battle of Lake Regillus, Latin League invasion near modern Frascati which saw Taur install Lucius Tarquinius Superbus. 494 BC. First secessio plebis Lucius Sicinius Velutus. The plebs abandoned Rome for the nearby Monte Sacro. 471 BC. After a law allowing organization of the plebs tribe, the plebeian council was reorganized by tribes rather than curiae. 459 BC. Under popular pressure, the Senate increased the tribunes of the plebs from 2 to 10. 458 BC. During the first dictatorship of Cincinnatus, the Achaeans staged an offensive, breaking a truce. Cincinnatus defeated the Achaeans at the Battle of Mount Algidus and after a triumph returned to his farm after 16 days. 2. 449 BC. Resolutions of the plebeian council were given the full force of law subject to Senate veto. 2nd of 2 Decemviri, specially elected 10-man commissions, issued the last of the 12 tables, the fundamental laws of the Republic. 447 BC. The tribal assembly was established, and granted the right to elect quaestors. 445 BC. Lex Canulea, marriage between patricians and plebeians was legalized. 443 BC. The offices of the Tribuni Militum Consulari Potestit were established. A collegium of 3 patrician or plebeian tribunes, one each from specific Roman tribes, the Titienses, the Ramnenses, and the Luceres, would hold the power of the consuls from year to year subject to the Senate. The office of the censor, a patrician magistrate responsible for conducting the census in years without a consul, was established. 439 BC. Cincinnatus was called upon to accept a second dictatorship by the patricians to prevent Spurius Maelius from seizing power. The patricians suspected Spurius of using wheat to purchase the support of the plebeians, to set himself up as a king. Gaius Servilius Ahala was appointed Magister Equitum in order to stop Maelius. Following an attack by Maelius, Ahala slew him. Cincinnatus again resigned his dictatorship and returned to his farm after 21 days. 2. 435 BC. Fidena, an important trade post on the Tiber, was captured from the VII. 3408 BC. The Tribuni Militum Consulari Potestit held office. 4th century BC. Year date event 396 BC. Battle of Veii. Roman forces led by the dictator Marcus Furius Camillus conquered Veii. Roman soldiers first earned a salary from Latin for salt. 394 BC. The consuls held office. 391 BC. The Tribuni Militum Consulari Potestit held office. 390 BC. 18 July Battle of the Allia. The Senones routed a Roman force at the confluence of the rivers Allia and Tiber. The Senones sacked Rome. Among other artifacts, books were destroyed. The history of Rome up to this point had to be mostly reconstructed and is sometimes unreliable or mythological. 367 BC. The consulship was reintroduced. 366 BC. Lucius Sextius was elected the first plebeian consul. The office of praetor, which took the judiciary responsibilities of the consul and could be held only by a patrician, was established. 351 BC. The first plebeian dictator was elected. The first plebeian censor was elected. 343 BC. Samnite Wars. Rome marched against the Samnites, probably after an appeal from the Campanians. Battle of Mount Gaurus. A Samnite force was routed by a Roman army near Mount Barbaro. 342 BC. The leges genutii were passed, banning a person from holding two offices at the same time, or during any 10-year period. Charging interest on loans was also banned. 341 BC. Samnite Wars. The Senate agreed a peace, following an appeal by the Samnite to a previous treaty of friendship. 340 BC. Latin War. The Latin League invaded Samium. 339 BC. A law was passed which required the election of at least one plebeian censor every 5 years. 338 BC. Latin War. Rome defeated the Latin League armies. 337 BC. The first plebeian praetor was elected. 328 BC. Samnite Wars. Rome declared war on the Samnites after their failure to prevent their subjects raiding Fregellae. 321 BC. Battle of the Caudine Forks. After being trapped in a mountain pass near Caudium without a water supply, Roman forces were allowed to retreat by a Samnite army. 315 BC. Battle of Lauchuli, a decisive Samnite victory near Terracina split Roman territory in two. 311 BC. Samnite Wars. The Etruscans laid siege to Sutri. 310 BC. Battle of Lake Vadimo. 310 BC. Rome inflicted a substantial military defeat on the Etruscans at Lake Vadimo. 308 BC. Samnite Wars. The Umbri, Pisans and Marsi joined the Samnites against Rome. 306 BC. The Hernici declared their independence from Rome. 304 BC. Rome conquered the Achaea. Samnite Wars. The treaty of friendship between the Romans and Samnites was restored. 3rd century BC. Year date event 300 BC. The Lex Ogonia was passed, allowing plebeians to become priests. 298 BC. Samnite Wars. Rome declared war on the Samnites after an appeal by the Lucani. Samnite Wars. Rome captured the Samnite cities of Bogino and Castel di Sangro. 297 BC. Battle of Typhonum. A Roman army defeated a numerically superior Samnite force at Città di Castello. 295 BC. Battle of Sentinum. A Roman army decisively defeated a numerically superior force of Samnites, Etruscans, Umbri and Senones in coalition at Sentinum. The consul Publius Decius Mus, consul 312 BC, was killed. 294 BC. Samnite Wars. Roman and Samnite forces battled at Lucera. 293 BC. Battle of Aquilonia. A Roman army destroyed the majority of Samnite forces, probably in Modilagnon. A census counted about 270,000 residents of Rome. 291 BC. Samnite Wars. Rome conquered and colonized the Samnite city of Venusa. 290 BC. Samnite Wars. The last effective Samnite resistance was eliminated. 287 BC. Conflict of the Orders. A secessio plebis took place. Conflict of the Orders. The Lex Hortensia was passed, made resolutions of the plebeian council, plebiscites, binding on all Romans. They formerly only applied to plebeians. 4. 283 BC Battle of Lake Vadimo. 283 BC a Roman army defeated a combined force of Etruscans, Boii and Senons near Lake Vadimo. 281 BC Taranto appealed to Epirus for aid against Rome. 280 BC Pyrrhic War. An Epirote army of some 25,000 landed at Taranto. July Battle of Heraclea, a Greek coalition force led by the Epirote king Pyrrhus of Epirus defeated a Roman army after their deployment of war elephants at Heraclea, Lucania. 279 BC Battle of Asculum. A Greek force led by the Epirote king Pyrrhus defeated a Roman army at Mardan Ascoli Satriano, despite suffering heavy losses. 275 BC Battle of Beneventum. 275 BC Roman and Epirote armies met in a bloody battle at Benevento. 272 BC Pyrrhic War. Pyrrhus withdrew with his army to Epirus. Pyrrhic War. Taranto surrendered to Rome. 267 BC the number of quaestus was raised from 4 to 10. 264 BC Battle of Messina. A Roman force defeated a Carthaginian and Syracusane garrison at Messina. 242 BC the office of the praetor qui inter peregrinos ius dicit, a praetor with jurisdiction over foreigners, was created. 241 BC First Punic War. Sicily was organized as the province of Sicilia. 238 BC Mercenary War. Carthage surrendered its claims on Sardinia and Corsica to Rome. 229 BC Illyrian Wars. Rome invaded the territory of the Ardea. 228 BC Illyrian Wars. The Ardea surrendered some territory, including strategically significant ports, to Rome, ending the war. 225 BC Battle of Telamon. A Roman army decisively defeated a Gallic invasion near modern Talamone. The consul Gaius Atilius Regulus was killed. 219 BC Illyrian Wars. Rome invaded the. 218 BC Second Punic War. A Carthaginian army departed Cartagena. Illyrian Wars. Demetrius of Pharos fled to Macedonia. 216 BC 2 August Battle of Cannae. The Carthaginian general Hannibal decisively defeated a numerically superior Roman force at Cannae. 214 BC First Macedonian War. A Macedonian fleet captured Oricum. Siege of Syracuse. 214-212 BC Rome laid siege to Syracuse. 212 BC Siege of Syracuse. 214-212 BC Roman forces breached the inner citadel of Syracuse and slaughtered its inhabitants. 205 BC First Macedonian War. Rome and Macedonia signed the Treaty of Finis. According to Hic, Macedonia renounced its alliance with Carthage in exchange for Roman recognition of its gains in Illyria. 204 BC Second Punic War. The consul Scipio Africanus landed an invasion fleet at Utica. 202 BC 19 October Battle of Zama. A Roman army decisively defeated Carthage, probably near modern Sakiat Sidi Yosef. 201 BC Second Punic War. Carthage accepted Roman conditions for peace, including disarmament, a war indemnity of 10,000 talents, and the cession of Iberia, ending the war. 2nd century BC. Year date event 200 BC Second Macedonian War. A Roman fleet arrived in Illyria to relieve a Macedonian siege of Abydos. 197 BC The provinces of Hispania Ulteria and Hispania Citerior were organized. The number of quaestus was increased to 12. The number of praetors was increased to 6. 196 BC Second Macedonian War. Macedonia surrendered its conquests in Greece and agreed to pay a war indemnity, ending the war. 192 BC Roman Seleucid War. The Seleucid Empire invaded Greece. 188 BC Roman Seleucid War. The Seleucid Empire signed the Treaty of Apamea, under which it surrendered all territory west of the Taurus Mountains to the Roman clients Rhodes and Pergamon and agreed to disarm its navy and pay a war indemnity of 15,000 talents of silver to Rome. 180 BC The Lex Vilia Annalis, which established minimum ages for high office and required a minimum of 2 years in private life between offices.